What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics here, and today we have a special guest, Norin, from the Sketch Card Hive and a few other various places that I'll have him tell you about. We are going to talk mostly about Marvel PMGs because that market has lost its damn mind recently. There's a lot of nonsense going on with it. I talked about it in a video a couple weeks ago with some sales on some greens that seemed a little maybe not correct. And then this week, another thing happened with an absolutely crazy auction. So I'm going to toss it over to Norin really quick, and then we'll go ahead and dive in. So tell the people where they can find you and what you do.
Thanks for having me on, first of all. And you can find me at Sketch Card Hive on Instagram and YouTube. I have a channel there and a channel on Instagram. I'm also part of some great podcasts. Marvel Pack Fresh. We do a thing live every Sunday where we talk. It's four of us, Elusive Collectibles, Gingy Man, and Spidey Jew 09, where we get together and talk about the Marvel card community. And of course, I'm also a co-host to the MCC Pod, the first Marvel card collectors podcast.
Yeah, that's how I originally found. I've been listening to the Marvel Collectors podcast for probably close to a year now. That was how I originally found you. Didn't even realize you had a YouTube channel until just a couple months ago. So, but Norin is my and the podcast in general is kind of my go-to source between you and Gigi on the on all the Marvel shenanigans that's going on in the Facebook group. So
we appreciate
when
that.
all this stuff went down, and then you've done. Norin did a video on this yesterday morning, or actually 2 days ago when this posts. About this, so you could check out that for some more information on it, and some updated information has come out since he even recorded that we're going to dive into today. So for a little bit of background, obviously people that watch my channel know, the Marvel stuff has gone kind of crazy since basically the first of the year. Essentially, it kind of went to a different place. Most of that was filtered around Marvel Universe cards, X-Men stuff, but just in general across the board, kind of the whole Marvel market went up. Even more specifically to that, PMGs, which sports cards collectors are very well aware of from their lineage, and Marvel card collectors are obviously extremely aware of, always had a ton of respect in your guys' hobby. But those, in general, over the last few months, seem to have really gone places that you guys have never seen before, correct?
Yeah, so we have never experienced. So PMGs in general for Marvel card collectors have always been Grail cards, especially the ones from 2013. They've always been top tier, especially 2013 retro. Just had some amazing inserts, and people were always really excited about that. It took me a long time to even find the cards that I was looking for, years in fact. So many people who do have these PMGs not only have maybe one or two greens of the same character, but have like 4 or 5 reds. 3 blues, that kind of thing. So it was very much kept at the top where only like 4 or 5 people had them. But they were always expensive, always difficult to find, and always really hard to spot them in good condition, which obviously a lot of people are learning about that now. So
yeah, PMGs were always tough grades on the sports card side of things, and even on the Marvel card side as well. They were the same printing, like even a BGS 9 or a PSA 9 would get a ton of respect on a PMG. I'm curious because Marvel cards in general, like base cards, grading kind of took over at the beginning of the year. You guys really would never think to grade a Stan Lee from 90 Marvel Universe prior to about 6 to 8 months ago.
Yep.
On the PMG side of thing, was that the same, or were people? I know I've seen a lot of PMGs already graded prior to all the craziness the last 8 months. Was it rare for someone to say, like, I'm sending a PMG off to get graded prior to 8 months ago? Or was it kind of like
nobody ever talked about sending anything graded? It was pretty bizarre because I had never even thought about grading either. It just wasn't in the vernacular. You know what I mean? So much about sports card world that I know very little about admitting. That's everything's graded, which I love because it's authenticated. It's there, you know it. There's not this like, well, I think this is a near mint or a PSA 10 question mark and all that garbage. For Marvel card collectors, we just started getting into that. So many of us were going back to our binders, and many of us were looking through cards that we just liked the art and looked at the cards, true collector appreciation type of thing, and kind of like, well, let me next level this and get a 9 or get a 10. The people who were grading were already in the sports world or had been grading for a while. So Graded Gamer, who's an amazing person, been grading cards. She's been grading Marvel cards for a very long time, and has a lot of experience there. And there's a bunch of people on Instagram who just happen to have it too. But I will say that people who were serious about their PMGs, I know at least of two people specifically who held quite a few of them, were in fact trying desperately to find PMGs in better grades. So they were always updating those cards specifically. Other cards, not so much. Like no one was grading MU90, really. We all
Yeah.
love the set, and we love the holograms, but that set was more of like, okay, cool, I have the full set now. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I have a full set in 10. That wasn't there.
Really. Yeah, 90 Marvel MU was the gateway drug, and then people got onto the hardcore stuff with the PMGs after they were
in the corner, we had to patrol the
yeah.
streets. Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
So all right, let's transition over. I'm gonna do a screen share really quick here. So I did a video on these a couple weeks ago, and these are greens from the 2013 Fleer Retro, which you mentioned, and that is kind of when it comes to. There's a lot of different versions and years of PMGs, but 13 Retro is like the gold standard when it comes. Like that's the one. If you're gonna go after one, those are the ones that you want. And to your point earlier, these cards are in collections that don't often see the light of day. Like when these things come off the market, it's not like sports cards where we pull a card off the market and we're looking to sell it 30 minutes later. You guys pull it off the market and it's like, cool, that'll be in my casket.
Forever. No, they're in their ship and they're being sailed down to the ocean. Someone just throws an arrow and it lights the whole thing on fire. It's gone. It's dead to everybody. No one can ever get it again. 2013 is also vastly important because it has banned characters in there. Not a lot of people know that. You got the Fantastic Four in there. You got Silver Surfer. I mean, some of them are like their first appearances because it's the first PMG set, but also they've never appeared again in 15, 17, or 18.
Is that a licensing issue, I assume, or?
So basically it happened around the time of Fox. So like when all that stuff kind of went down, basically they stopped using those characters in cards. They've come back minorly, like in Marvel Masterpieces 2016 when Jusko revisited the set. There were some of those characters in there, like Surfer makes an appearance there, but for the most, they're still banned characters. You don't see a lot of Fantastic Four characters popping up in later sets.
Gotcha. Yeah. So these fired up for auction, not long ago, or what was this? 2 weeks ago, about September 13th is when these ended. And this got a lot of buzz in the various, I'm in a few Marvel Facebook groups. And like I said, I did a video about these too. And a lot of people in the comments were like, I don't know about these. And essentially, I mean, do you have any, obviously these numbers do not seem, I mean, I don't know. So did these seem like legitimate prices to you, or were you when these ended? Were you immediately like, "Nah, bro, there's no way these are legit"?
In some aspects, I'm looking at Thanos. So first off, real quickly, PMGs are not the end all be all for Marvel cards. There's a great treasure trove of amazing cards that are numbered and far more rare than PMGs. PMGs are being flocked to right now because of people's limited knowledge of Marvel cards. I know the seller of these. He's had these for some time. He's one of these people who gets multiples and goes for the higher grade and then sells off the rest. That's a fact. I also know, and he confirmed, that nothing sold over 5 figures. So the Loki was legitimate, and Iron Man, Agent Venom, and Thanos did not happen.
Okay.
What I'm hearing is that it was a mix of two different things, because I also spoke to the buyer for the Thanos, I believe, or the Agent Venom, I forget now which one the person mentioned. But basically what happened here is a mixture of things. The seller pulled down some cards because they didn't feel comfortable about selling them for X reason. And then the buyer didn't feel comfortable buying them because of the condition and other stuff. And they were worried about eBay taxes for the seller. The seller was worried about eBay taxes, all this kind of stuff.
So basically both sides got cold feet to some degree.
Basically, that's what happened. And the Spider-Man green was a legitimate sale, the one that sold in Golden Auctions. We know where that one is.
Oh, yeah.
That was real. And I do think that's a good marker for the ceiling. I think that makes a lot of sense for that Spider-Man. And there were multiple bidders. So it's not just one person being like, hey, this card has to be mine. I know for a fact there are multiple people on that card.
What did that one end at? I don't remember.
30-something or 29-something? Like there, roughly around there. I should remember, but I don't have it in the back of my head.
I actually personally thought the Loki seemed air quotes cheap, just given the fact that I'm looking at it from the sports card side of things. I'm like, oh, it's a color match. It's green on green. Like it looks
I
has
love that.
a little more
That's
sex
cool.
appeal to it than.
Yeah, and that's the better low key PMG in my opinion. There's nothing that's the better art.
I
And
really like
you
the
guys,
artwork. I was gonna say it's much more MCU ish plus comic book. Like I don't know. It's a nice cross between the two.
if there was ever a bridge between Marvel cards and sports card collectors in terms of recognizing a card's value, it's more like you guys look at the players and the potential of their greatness, goatness, whatever it can be, goatness. I hope you like that. Or you're looking at the artwork. Marvel card collectors look at the artwork, plain and simple. If it's rad, if it's cool, if it's sick looking, they go for it. And the Loki has all that sex appeal to it. It's perfectly matched color wise, great positioning. It's just a killer PMG. Like if you look at the Thanos, that's not really a very powerful Thanos. You know what I mean? In terms of like
Yeah,
art choice. It's just
I
it's
was
not
surprised on
recognizable.
the price difference between the Thanos. I mean, once again, some of these were and were not paid for, but I was
Yes.
surprised that the Thanos pulled that much of a higher number. That, in my opinion, I would rather spend 9K on the Loki than 25K on the Thanos 10 times out of 10 because I think Loki's
Also,
just a more relevant character.
Loki's a very relative character now too. I think like the Venom there, for instance, talking about the art side of Marvel card collectors. That's not Venom. That's Agent Venom.
Yeah,
The art that was used there is not really indicative of the character. So yes, it's the first, but probably the best looking Venom PMG is from 2017 or Flare Ultra Spider-Man. You know what I mean? That's iconic Venom.
yeah. So these happened and kind of like juiced the market, whether real or not. Sometimes it almost doesn't even matter because some people are just going to look at this and they're not. There's a segment that's not going to take the 2 extra steps to say, did that actually sell for that or do any research on it at all? They just see the number and they're like, I need to go buy some PMGs.
And it's a
So
shame
after
too because it's a shame. Yeah.
so after these ended, did you notice any ripple effects in the general PMG market? Like that where all of a sudden were stuff that was normally selling for 500 suddenly going for 750 to 1,000? Like was there any ripple effects from these or not that much?
It's funny in this hobby and like the card hobby in general. Everybody who has them will say, "Well, now mine costs more," and people who don't have them be like, "Whoa, wait, were these legitimate? Because I don't want to pay extra for something that doesn't truly cost that, right?" So you get all that kind of like hearsay, I say kind of stuff, and you know all this kind of stuff happens. Personally, did I hear anything? No, I heard a lot of people like, "Great, I'm never going to get that card now." That's what I heard a lot of people saying. Do I see the thing is they're hard to find. I do think some green PMGs are coming up on an auction soon, from what I'm hearing through the grapevine. So I think things are coming up soon, which I haven't really told anybody, but for you, always DM. But there is stuff. There is stuff coming from what I'm being told. So there are some greens coming, and I think they're going to be on an auction house. And once those prices come in, I'm interested to see where everything sits because I think it is going to be a tier system. Spidey's at the top, right? And that Spidey sold a couple months ago, I think now. Wow, pin drop
Yeah.
mine. I've lost all track of time. But Spidey's up here. It's going to get, everything's going to rise and get closer to Spidey based on character popularity. And that's what you're looking at. You're looking at character popularity. Thanos being 25 grand, nah. You know what I mean? He's a big baddie. He's the first MCU baddie, so it just depends what you want. But we know that's fake. We know there was some shill bidding involved. People are definitely rising these prices to make their collections higher valued because people have been holding on to these for a while. And the truth, too, is that a lot of people are upset that their hobby is being invaded. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do want to circle back on that. We'll circle back on that after we talk about the next one because that is something I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit. So let's go on to kind of the main event. We this was the undercard of this fight. The main event though is this guy. So this happened just a couple days ago. So give some background on it. This is a gold from 2018 Fleer Ultra X-Men, but it is not a pack hold card.
So,
and it's technically a one of one, but the other one exists. So can you give like a little, 60, like a couple minute download on exactly what's going on with this card?
2018 Fleer Ultra X-Men is extremely important because it had PMGs and many other cards. It was a beautiful set. It was the first modern take on a Fleer Ultra line. We had Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, then Fleer Ultra X-Men. Sold out relatively quickly on ePack because of one particular buyer who owns a lot of the product. This particular card can only be achieved through that online portal called upperdeckepack.com, where you can buy cards digitally but receive them physically. This happened to be one of those cards. This card was part of an achievement set. So the achievement was this: if you collected all the green PMGs from the 2018 Fleer Ultra X-Men set in this upperdeckepack.com realm, you would be granted this achievement. Now, here's the tricky part. In the writing, it was that the first person who was able to do it would get this gold Old Man Logan. Now, gold for PMGs in the Marvel world are always one of one. So this is essentially a one of one card that was received by this owner. So that's the background there. That's the background on the gold PMGs.
So this shows up on eBay, but cue up Scooby-Doo music. Yep. This card already exists in someone's collection.
Pesky kids.
That's still in their hand, not listed on eBay currently.
It was actually pretty funny because he contacted the co-host on the MCC pod, Ian Taylor, who's an awesome guy. And he was contacted through that guy. And he basically said, look, I have it here. This is a fake thing. You should let people know. The guy just opened up his binder, and you just see this thing sitting in a binder with other one-of-one golds. And it was right there. And we know for a fact he was the first one to achieve it because, again, the Marvel card hobby is really small. And most of us knew that he was going for it. And we knew there would only ever be one person to get it as quickly as they did. And it was this collector called Mr. Buxom, Fleer Ultra X-Men.
Yeah. So when the one that he has, is it actually stamped one of one on the back or no? So they don't stamp these one of one. It's just kind of a known thing.
Unfortunately, they did not stamp the gold Old Man Logan one of one, which they should have, hands down, but they didn't.
So, he has his and has had his in his binder for however long he's had it for, probably multiple years now.
Multiple years.
And then this one all of a sudden hits the wild. Yep. So what has been the general consensus on that? I know a lot of people were yelling like, "Oh, it must be a fake." Personally, I'll give my hot take real quick, and then I'll throw it to you.
Please.
This just seems too obscure of a card to be faked. Like, in my opinion, my guess is that this was some sort of, hey, we print multiples in case of damage replacement or whatever. Has that been kind of the general take from the community at large?
The people who were in the know realized very quickly that it wasn't the card because they knew where the card was. So many of them reached out to that like, "Hey, are you selling this? Is this real?" And that's kind of how it all started. Many people asked, "There's an Old Man Logan PMG?" because it's that obscure of a card. So a lot of people just did not know. That was the general consensus. A lot of confusion going on there. But yeah, it was just a lot of confusion. Really, that's just how people were feeling about it, asking a lot of questions, not realizing. Realized that it was a consignment spot that's done this before, so that was pretty strange too. The card's not a fake at all. It's been double checked by a lot of people, a lot smarter than me, who know PMGs well. But you can tell there's a few key things in the PMG, at least from this set, that make this card very real. The amount of white outline across Old Logan's head and shoulder and collar there, that's very indicative of the original. The way the E goes over the X logo is another way to tell it's authentic in terms of that printing. Precious metal gem sitting on that foil there is all clean. Usually those fakes kind of have like a little blurriness to them. So, I mean, there's a lot of things there. The thickness of the card is right. A lot of it's very much dead on. There's no way this is a fake. This was, like you said, I think, which was an extra one produced in case one was damaged or something happened, or they were going to hold it for a long time in case something did happen and all this kind of stuff. And for some reason, this was backdoored or something happened.
Yeah, who knows? It could have been from the printer. It could have been. It could have changed hands 5 times before it hit the consignor. Like, we don't know. Yeah. We don't know. We'll probably never really know, most likely. But so, this happens. There's all that nonsense around it. And then it still ends up at this number, which does seem immediately you see the number and you're like, oh, that looks a little cheeseball-y.
We're very mature in the card world. Okay. Basically,
for sure.
This is a fake bid. This is a fake bid. It's been confirmed now that this was a fake bid. They did not pay this number. In fact, it is confirmed now, and this is an update for all of you Neo fans out there. This is completely fake. And Upper Deck has received this card and has gotten this card back. This was not Upper Deck's bid. This was a fake bid to make sure that the Marvel hobby wasn't hurt. So a lot of people came together to make sure that it became a controlled scenario rather than kind of getting two cards out there in the wild that shouldn't be. Yeah, and that's the latest up. I literally just heard that like 10 minutes ago.
So speculation. Say this card legitimately hit the market. What's your best guess at what this goes for? Say we'll have no question about the legitimacy of the card. It's just put up for auction. Everyone knows it's the real deal.
It's more rare than Spider-Man. In the way of having to obtain this card, it's more rare than the 2013 Spider-Man. It's more rare than the 2015 Spider-Man. More rare than the 2017 Spider-Man. This is probably God level PMG for Marvel cards, if I can be honest. Just because of the way you have to obtain it, the rarity of the card, what you have to do to get it. Remember, you have to collect all the green PMGs on Upper Deck EPAC. That means you're buying the cards there, trading, swapping, all this stuff. The person who actually owns this card deserves this card. I mean, they spent a copious amount of money and did quite a bit of legwork to obtain it. It's a lot. It would have to be a lot. And the person's never going to sell it, so it's not happening.
Yeah, you know I was just curious what something
it's more than
on
that
level would go for.
Sure, without a doubt, in my mind, open auction more than Spider-Man.
Yeah, because it's not like yes, Wolverine's probably not on Spider-Man's level, but he's probably like a 1B. It's not like Wolverine's a chump. You know what I mean? He's probably the second most popular Marvel character. I don't know where he falls now. With like Venom, Iron Man, Cap. Yeah.
I think honestly it's going to be with familiarity, right? And it just depends. I think that people who are in the know the rarity of the card, which they'll go high. Old Man Logan's not really Wolverine either, though. So there is that little bit of a problem. But in my opinion, if you're spending this kind of money on this card, you know what it is. You know what I mean? You're not going to chance to be like, oh, this one obviously is rare, $100,000. You're right. It's going to be, oh, let me look into this because I see a lot of attention on here. And then once you find out all the good stuff, you kind of, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, even though, obviously, we laid out the whole story there. This card did not sell for this price. This card was some sort of extra, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's off the market. Sanity is restored. But in my mind, just looking at this from a semi-outsider, this is still just going to bring more attention to PMGs in general. Just as being out there, people are going to be talking about them more. So even though, the law of unintended consequences almost, I guess, do you think that this, I don't want to say helps, not that PMGs need the help in pricing, but do you think this incident keeps juicing that market, for lack of a better term?
Marvel card collectors will always collect Marvel cards, regardless of rarity, value, or anything. It's been like that since I've been part of the hobby 10 plus years ago. If it cost a penny, people would still want it and go for it. Do I think it's going to attract the attention of sports card investors type of people, or Pokemon investors, or card celebrity people, influencers? Of course, everyone wants the grails. They want all the grails from all the big major card franchises on their shelf, and they want to have that in a vault. I think that's awesome, and I think it's a cool way to collect. I'm a big admirer of it. But do I think this is going to bring more attention to PMGs? Yeah, I don't think this is going to be like, oh, they might all be fake. Let me not bid on any. That's a lie. People are still going to go for it. You know what I mean? But I think what I hope this does for a lot of people, being the Marvel card collector myself, is that people want to be educated about this. They want to see what these cards are. They want to know the answers. Like, okay, everyone's looking at PMGs over here. What am I looking at over here? You know what I mean? What do I value over here? What do I appreciate? And I think people are going to start making smarter decisions because they understand that this is not a chump part of the hobby where they can go in, buy the biggest card to say, hey, I got the best Marvel cards. Because you don't. There are a lot of cards that people just haven't even stumbled upon yet that are far more interesting than PMGs. So I'm excited for people to find that out.
So with all this attention lately that's been on PMGs, and I'm going to ask you to speak for the Marvel collecting community as a whole, which puts you in a weird place, but
why wouldn't you?
Yeah, you're the spokesperson for everybody. What would you say, what percentage of the people that have been in it and have been in it for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is, how many of them are like, can we just go back to the way that it was? You knew people, whether it's sports card guys, comic book guys, Pokemon guys, stock guy, whatever. Dogecoin people, can you guys just go back to where you came from? And can we just go back to having it the way that it was? And then how many people are like, this is fantastic. Bring us all the eyes. Bring us, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Because I assume there's definitely a split there that probably a little bit are probably in the middle, but I feel like some people are probably on the please go away. And on the other side are like, oh, no, come in, enter.
If I can be honest, and I will be honest here, I'm not speaking for the community at all. This is from my view of everything that I've experienced, and I am not an expert in this at all. I've been here for a little while. I have some video editing skills, and I like attention, so this is where I'm at. So this is where I'm at. But there are people who don't want this to happen. There are people who do want this to happen, and there are people who are just eating this up, and people who are selling their cards and rethinking their collections. There's quite a variety of people. Mostly what I hear from Marvel card collectors is that, man, I wish it was the 90s again, where you had packs in the malls, at sports card shows, at comic book stops. You can just pick up a pack and enjoy some art. And naively and romantically, I kind of want that too, and I think all this attention to Marvel cards will hopefully prompt Upper Deck and Marvel to be like, you know what? Let's have Marvel cards show up on the covers of comic books, which they're doing. Let's get Panini to make some cards and stickers for a Marvel card book and make them look really good, which they did. You know what I mean? There's all these things that are happening. Marvel Insider had a card, for getting on EPAC, on Upper Deck EPAC. Like, there's little things happening now where we're getting that kind of promotion again and getting to enjoy this on kind of like a global level. And for me personally, I like that this is shaking things up. As a collector, there's very much a inner circle or two or three or four that have a lot of cards that they don't want to let go of. And some of these prices are making them rethink that. Or some of them don't want to do this anymore. Some of them are thinking, well, I'd rather have it over here instead of over here. And that's kind of good for a hobby. And in my experience, and I'll wrap this up, the worst thing that happens in Marvel cards is that people just don't have the knowledge of what's out there. And that's the hardest thing, I think, hurts. I think that's the thing that hurts the hobby, because then you have all these cards that no one understands but like three or four people, and they're all like stabbing each other in the back to get them, or waiting for an obituary to show up and just buy their cards. As dark as that is, it's kind of true. And in some way, having an open discussion and bringing people in who are interested in this is nice. It's different. It gives a little life to a hobby that I'm a big fan of. So,
yeah, it does seem like, because we'll kind of close with this. I do see a lot of, from a semi-outsider looking in, a lot of people complaining about like the prices of new products continuing to go up, and people feeling like they're getting priced out. Maybe not the people that are chasing PMGs, but to your point, people that just want to, a new set of Marvel cards comes out, they want to buy a box or two, try to put a base set together. If they hit some stuff, they hit some stuff, and then they wait, till the next product releases, rinse and repeat. And I think I could see how a lot of those people would be like, wait a second, how much is a box of Spider-Man metal now? Okay, now I could get maybe one of these instead of the 2 or 3 boxes that I bought before. Like, we were talking pre-stream, Spider-Man metal boxes went up for like $225, then they sold out, and went up for $240, $250, and then they sold out again. And now they're up on Steel City for almost $400, which, even from my perspective, I'm like, that's absolutely, you're crazy.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Look, and here's the thing that, take Star Wars, for example, Star Wars cards, right? They do a great job of having blaster boxes at retail stores. You know what I mean? They don't have a box hit like a sketch or an autograph. They have a medallion card. You know what I mean? And you're able to get into a set, still buy it at a reasonable price. And then anybody who wants to go crazy can get a hobby exclusive box and get the rare hit. That needs to happen for Marvel. And that's only going to happen with more people into the hobby. It's not going to happen when they're just catering to the high tier collector, which is what Marvel ended up doing. Marvel cards ended up gearing towards those collectors because, to be honest, we were the only ones buying them. And we're like 30, 40, 50 of your age and can afford it. You know what I mean? That's our only hobby. So from a marketing standpoint, there's never ever been a need to have like a retail exclusive thing or sell sets at a lower price. There's Marvel Annual, there's Pack Wars. Those things are cheaper and they're great sets. There just needs to be more of that. I think those people who feel priced out would feel more included and less, worried that their wives or husbands are going to make them live in a cardboard box. to afford an expensive box of
Yeah,
cards.
like even locally, none of my local card shop, like sports card shops, I could not. There's no LCS that I'm aware of anyway, within almost 2 hours of me that I could walk into and just say, hey, can I get a box of X-Men Metal, Marvel Annual, Flair, whatever. I know one shop, Card Collector 2 in Columbus. He carries some Marvel stuff, but not all of it. Like I actually messaged him and I said, are you guys getting Spider-Man Metal boxes in? And they're like, we don't think so. And they didn't carry X-Men Metal, but they did get Black Diamond and they did get the last Marvel Masterpieces set they had on the shelf. But that's 2 hours away from me. Like none of the places local to me even carry it. To your point earlier of like, you're saying Walmart, like, can I just even get a box in my local LCS on the regular? So that would be nice to see if it does continue to expand. I know e-pack's an option, but I don't know. I want to open.
Everyone does. Everyone does, you know, and I love Upper Deck e-pack 100%. I think it's super vital to the community and great spot. If you haven't looked at it, you should really check it out. But everybody wants that tangible feeling of opening packs, man. That's kind of why we're all card people, you know,
for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for popping on to kind of talk about this. Like I said, I talked about the greens a couple weeks ago, and then this thing happened, and I'm like, what? I got to talk to someone that like is in the know on what in the hell is going on with the PMG sales. And I have a feeling we're going to keep, like you said, there's going to be some stuff coming up on auction. Yes. I have a feeling those are probably going to set most likely new record prices would be my guess. Just I don't even know what the cards are. I'm just blindly guessing that it's probably going to set new record. Maybe it won't trump the Spider-Man, but I have a feeling they're going to be big numbers, whatever they end at. So it's been a wild ride, this Marvel nonsense, and I'll be curious to see where. So the next release is Spider-Man Metal. Is that accurate? That's the next new product to come out.
That's what I'm hearing. I don't know when that's coming up. It may be December, maybe early next year. I have no idea of the release date. I hope it's sooner than later. But the next one that actually will be sooner is X-Men Metal on Upper Deck e-pack. I sound like a plug for upperdeck-epack.com, but like it's so weird. But that is where you'll be able to get Marvel cards on that website. Hopefully soonish. I don't know.
I was going to say, is there an actual date? It's so many months after release, isn't it? Or days?
4 months after release or something, but there's no date. We're hoping that they update us in the group. And, you know, I'll DM you and let you know, and everybody will tell people. But hopefully soon, you know.
Do we know, what do they normally price those at?
So they're a little higher. Not crazy higher from my experience, but they are a little higher to account for COMC sorting them, to account for the e-pack achievement, which I don't know what they're going to do yet. And, you know, the ease of convenience of trading and all that stuff. I don't think it's going to be Steel City, Dave and Adams hypocrisy craziness, but I do think it will be higher than what we're expecting.
Used to. So there's probably going to be a little sticker shock from the people that have, even if it's like an extra $1 a pack, people, you know how the internet gets. They're going to be mad about it.
Like, what?
So, all right, Norin, thanks for giving me a little bit of time and popping on today. Once again, I encourage you guys to check out the podcast and the YouTube channel. I will link to all that stuff down below. So go give him a follow on the various social media platforms, and we will catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.
Later.